Hello, my fam. Welcome back to another episode here on Stars and Stories. I'm your loyal host, Lawrence, and today we are stepping slightly outside the usual royal bubble to dive into a story that is shaking the media landscape on both sides of the Atlantic. Andrew Tate, the man the media loves to label as controversial, the man social platforms have tried to silence, the man courts keep dragging into battles, has just gone head-to-head with none other than Piers Morgan. Yes, that Piers Morgan, the master of interruptions, the champion of tabloid spin, the guy who thinks shouting the loudest wins the debate. But this time, squaddies, the interview was explosive in ways even Piers didn't fully expect. And here's the truth. Whether you love him or hate him, Andrew Tate has become a voice that millions of young men, especially in the UK and US, listen to with intensity. He speaks about strength, discipline, rejecting victimhood and seeing through what he calls the matrix. For many, he's the first figure to challenge a broken system head-on. For others, he's a lightning rod for controversy. But one thing is undeniable, his influence can't be ignored. So today we'll break down the interview chapter by chapter, exposing how Tate handled Piers, what truths were buried and why this moment matters for the future of free speech, media integrity and culture itself. So buckle up, grab your tea and let's get into it. The interview didn't start quietly, it started like a boxing match. Piers Morgan, leaning forward with those sharp eyes of his, was ready to pounce on every controversy surrounding Tate. From his views on women, to his ongoing criminal cases, to his so-called influence on young men, Piers wanted to throw punches right from the opening bell, but Andrew Tate, he walked into that studio like a fighter who had already trained for this moment. Calm, collected and laser-focused, Tate knew exactly what game was being played. He didn't take the bait. Instead of shouting back or being defensive, he flipped Piers' tactics upside down. He reminded Piers, and the millions watching, that his popularity didn't come from mainstream approval. It came from his authenticity, from saying things young men feel deep down but never hear reflected in schools, governments or traditional media. That's why his words hit like thunder, because they speak to real frustrations and real lives. And you could see it on Piers' face, squaddies. This wasn't just an interview. This was a man-to-man wrestling match of ideas where Piers wasn't in full control for once. Tate's presence was a reminder that influence today doesn't live in the pages of newspapers. It lives in authenticity that resonates worldwide. Then came the heavy moment. Piers tried to corner Tate by raising the tragic assassination attempt on US political commentator Charlie Kirk. He pushed hard, asking whether Tate was provoking division by how he framed the event. But Tate didn't back down. His answer was blunt, raw, and unsettling for those who prefer comfort over truth. He argued that the West is in chaos and that rising violence isn't random. It's the result of deep moral and cultural decay. According to Tate, the media loves sensationalism. They'll point fingers at extremism, they'll stir up outrage, but they rarely ask the deeper question, why is society falling apart in the first place? Tate placed the blame on broken families, on weak leadership, and on a system that teaches young men to hate themselves instead of building strength, confidence and responsibility. And for UK viewers, his words hit differently. He connected America's political violence to Britain's own social crisis, knife crime on the streets, gang violence in cities, and the slow but painful erosion of discipline in schools. His point was chilling. The West is rotting from the inside, and unless we wake up, chaos will become the new normal. Now, squaddies, let's talk about the heart of the clash, the media. Because if there's one thing the mainstream media knows how to do, it's build a villain. With Andrew Tate, their playbook is clear. Demonize him, paint him as toxic, frame him as a danger to boys, and make his name synonymous with fear. But on Piers' show, Tate flipped that narrative in one line. If I were truly irrelevant, why would every newspaper, every politician, and every talk show host be obsessed with me? And you know what? He's right. The media says nobody should listen to Tate, but they dedicate endless hours of coverage to him. It's the same hypocrisy we see with Harry and Meghan. Irrelevant, yet constantly plastered across the front pages. This chapter of the interview revealed why Tate is such a threat to the establishment. It's not because he's toxic, it's because he refuses to play by their rules. He doesn't need them. And in today's world, when you don't need the old media, you're untouchable in ways they can't stand. One of the most heated exchanges came when Tate suggested that the West, particularly America, is headed toward a civil war. Now, that statement sent Piers into overdrive. He leaned in, raised his voice and barked, "Are you saying people should prepare for violence?" Tate didn't flinch. He clarified that he wasn't calling for war. He was predicting collapse if nothing changes. "Look at the evidence," he said. "Soaring living costs, governments ignoring ordinary people, and a media that divides everyone by race, gender and class. That's not a recipe for peace. It's a slow march toward conflict." And for UK viewers, his warning wasn't some distant American nightmare, it was close to home. We see strikes, skyrocketing energy bills, a health system stretched to breaking point, and young people who no longer trust politics at all. Tate's prediction wasn't fantasy, it was a mirror reflecting cracks we already see spreading across our societies. But here's where the conversation deepened beyond politics. Tate argued that the true crisis of the West isn't economic and it isn't political, it's spiritual. He said we've traded discipline, faith and family for consumerism, celebrity worship and endless distraction. This squad is why Tate resonates so deeply. He isn't just talking about gym routines or cars, he's talking about rebuilding men in a society that tells them they're useless. He says, get up early, train your body, respect yourself, reject weakness, live with discipline. Compare that to what mainstream culture pushes: instant gratification, endless scrolling and no accountability. Whether you love him or hate him, millions of men feel that Tate is saying what nobody else dares to, and that terrifies the establishment. Because a generation of strong, disciplined, free-thinking men is the last thing the system wants. Of course, Piers had to drag the conversation into Tate's legal troubles. He brought up the ongoing court cases in Romania, pushing hard, accusing Tate of hiding behind conspiracies. But once again, Tate didn't flinch. He argued that the cases were politically motivated, fueled by a system desperate to shut him down because they can't control him. He described it as the Matrix, a web of media, politicians and legal machinery that attacks anyone who refuses to obey. And squaddies? Doesn't that sound painfully familiar? Isn't it the same kind of machinery that Harry and Meghan face from the tabloids and courtiers? Different faces, different arenas, but the same ruthless system that punishes those who won't play by the rules of power. Perhaps the most explosive part of the interview came when Piers confronted Tate about his comments on the murder of a young woman on a UK train. Tate didn't soften his words. He argued that the media's coverage was dishonest because it avoided addressing the racial dynamics of the crime. This was uncomfortable, raw and controversial. Piers pushed back hard, accusing Tate of stirring division. But Tate's point was simple. The media is selective. When race fits the narrative, it's front-page news. When it doesn't, silence. And whether you agree with Tate's framing or not, the larger truth was undeniable. The media does not tell the whole story. It tells the story that benefits the system, the narrative that serves their agenda. That's why this exchange hit like a lightning bolt, because it ripped away the illusion of neutrality. So what do we take from this clash between Ndrew Tate and Piers Morgan? For me, squaddies, it's crystal clear. This wasn't just an interview, it was a battle of narratives, the old media versus a new voice they cannot control. Tate showed composure, clarity and conviction, even when Piers tried to trap him. And whether you love him or hate him, he forced millions of viewers to question what they're told every single day by the press. And here's the final takeaway. Free speech is under siege. If voices like Tate's can be silenced, then none of us are truly safe from censorship. That's why these conversations matter. Not just for Tate, not just for Harry and Meghan, but for everyone who dares to challenge corrupt systems. Thank you, my beautiful family, for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Let's keep pushing for truth, dignity and justice. Until next time, I'm Lawrence Bett. Stay bold, stay strong and always seek the truth.